People always asking me questions. All kind of questions. Philosophical questions. Somebody asked me one day, what's wrong with the world, Abe? I said same thing's wrong with my two boys, Ted and Willie. I had 4 boys, Ted, Willie, Eddie, Robert. Robert's the only one lived into his adult years. But Ted and Willie, they'd been fuming and fussing all day long. You know what they've been fuming and fussing about? Each of them wanted 2 walnuts. And I didn't have but 3. Of course, for them to have 2, I had to have 4. I didn't have but 3, and that's what's wrong with the world. Some people want 2 walnuts, 3 walnuts, 4 walnuts if they can find it, all the walnuts and any extra walnuts lying around. Ain't nothing wrong with ambition. Ain't nothing wrong with succeeding. Ain't nothing wrong with making money. I made $1,500 one year when the governor didn't make but $800. But when it gets to be greed, that's what's wrong. That's more than wrong. That's worse than bad. I did have the answers to a lot of questions. Not all of them, that's for sure. I just wish that putting on knowledge was as easy as putting on this hat. I know one thing I didn't have much knowledge of. I didn't understand women. I was madly in love with a young lady by the name of Ann Rutledge. She died young. Broke my heart. Later on, there was a woman by the name of Ray Owen. She gave up on me before I gave up on her. Then there was Mary Todd. Took twice around before we finally got together, official. She's what we call in my time prissy proud. She's a society girl, not just a hill boy. In Washington, I used to drive her crazy. Somebody knock at the door, I'd go answer the door. I never got used to having servants. I want to read a book, I'd lie down flat on my back on the floor staring up at the ceiling. I'd wear my suspenders when it came to dinner. We got along pretty good. She did have a bad temper. Got lots of fresh air. I was a charity person. I ain't saying she wasn't. But I am saying I understood her well enough to know how to make things work. I want to give $25 to a charity to a person. I'd go to Mary Todd and I'd say, I want to give $50. She'd say, that's too much, Abe. Let's make it 25. Remember, 25 is what I want to give in the first place. If I'd said 25, she'd have said, let's make it $12.50. And we could have argued the next hour. That's what you got to do. You got to get inside the head of other people. Try to think like they're thinking. Save a lot of trouble. Well, the time has come when I could talk to you about all the maiming and the killing. Places like Antietam and Bull Run, but I ain't gonna. I would like to share with you what I said at a place called Gettysburg, where they'd buried so many of the boys. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth in this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or to detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Before you started listening to me, I don't know how much you knew about me. Now that you have, I don't know what you think about me. If you think that everything I did was right, I'm powerful pleased. If you think that everything I did was wrong, all the angels in heaven swearing that I was right ain't gonna change your mind. John Wilkes Booth thought I was wrong. Put a bullet in my head. Ford Theater, 10:15 p.m. Died the next morning, 7:22. I'd gone there for a little bit of laughter. Hadn't been laughing much. Lost 30 pounds doing that terrible war, worrying myself to death. One day, after the war was over, I was already trying to make peace. Bring some healing. Get rid of all the hating. Saying good things about President Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy, saying good things about General Robert E. Lee. I didn't agree with everything they said or what they did, but they were men of good conscience. And it's a time for healing, not a time for hurting. Remember, I'm the man who said, with malice toward none, with charity toward all. You got any hate in your heart? You get rid of it. It's a cancer. It'll eat your life.